Hey guys, it's Michelle from Cozyegg, and today is Monday, April 9th, 2018, and this is episode 52. So I think my last video was about 3 weeks ago, so thanks for being patient. I have a lot to talk about, so let's just dive right in. So I have a couple of finishes to show you. And anybody that has been looking at my Instagram lately will be thinking, what do you mean you have finishes to show us? You haven't been working on anything other than the obvious. But I did do a little bit of secret stitching. It will hopefully go to the recipient shortly, so I'm just going to go ahead and show it. I have not done the finishing on these yet. So let me start by saying that true confessions, I am terrible about gift giving. Like, shamefully terrible about it. I really have no excuse, but I think what happens to me is that I always fall into that place of I want to make something for birthday, Christmas, what have you, and either I can't decide on what to make, or there's no way I can humanly get it done in the time that I have allowed myself, which is usually about a day and a half. So that being said, I have a tendency to give gifts at like random times during the year whenever I seem to actually finish whatever it is. So it's not to say that everybody gets a handmade gift, but that's usually kind of my default position, which is maybe part of the problem. But anyway, so these are gifts. One of them was for Christmas. So I decided that I wanted to stitch, Primitive Hair has a series of freebies, and one of them is this Yule freebie, and I stitched this just on a scrap piece of fabric. I just loved this. I have seen it stitched both in, you know, all different colors, as well as I've seen it just done as a monochrome. I think I saw one on Instagram that was all done in red, and it was beautiful. I believe that these are actually charted for DMC. I just went through my stash and picked some overdyes and just kind of put the colors where I wanted to put them. So I'm really happy with that, how that turned out. And on the freebie, it has a border down at the bottom. I just left that off. So this will eventually be a Christmas gift, belated Christmas gift. And I did pick, I'm gonna make these into ornaments, even though they're going to be kind of larger than a normal ornament. You'll understand in a minute. But anyway, this is the fabric that I picked for the backing fabric, and I think that'll be really pretty. So that was my first finish, and like I said, these are freebies that are on Primitive Hair's blog, website, something, anyway. And then I saw in the Bewitched Stitches group, a couple of people had stitched another one of her freebies called, it's the Astara freebie, and they were stitching it for Astara, which of course is where the word Easter comes from. Don't Google that and tell me that I'm wrong, whatever. But So I thought, you know what, I also owe this same person a birthday gift. So I think I will also stitch the Astara freebie for her and make that into an ornament. And then maybe if I feel like it, I can do the rest of them at some point or another. So this is also a scrap piece of fabric. This is actually kind of the bottom half of the piece of fabric that I used for my souvenir sampler from, or Camille sampler, whatever you want to call it, from the Sampler Girl. But I thought this would be pretty. It has, that's the back. It has kind of a, I think this is called Golden Harvest, if I'm not mistaken, and it's Silk Weaver, and it's like a 32 count. So there's Astara, and I did the same thing with this one. I just picked over-dyed threads that I thought would be pretty. And if I get that a little bit closer, you can see in some lights it does look a little pinky. But as soon as I do that, it like readjusts itself. So anyway, there's Astara. And this one also had a border down at the bottom, which I just left off. And the fabric that I am going to put on the back of this, also from the stash pile, is that pretty kind of mottled pink. So, but these are very sweet freebies. She has done them for some of the other Sabbaths like Samhain and Mabon and Beltane, etc. So I may stitch all of those at some point. And I would like to also stitch them for myself. But I think for me, I'm probably going to stitch them into little, you know, dough bowl fillers instead of ornaments. So, and I am actually going to, so I mentioned I was going to finish these into ornaments. I've actually cut out, I'm going to make them oval shaped. And like I said, they're going to be pretty large, but I think they would be pretty, not necessarily hanging like on the one from a Christmas tree, but they might be pretty just to hang, you know, like on this cabinet. I have little handles, you know, things like that. I think it would be pretty. So I have those cut out and ready to go for finishing. And also in my finishing pile, you may remember a couple videos ago that I had finished all of those extra orphan blocks from my round robin, my Halloween round robin. Well, I forgot one. So this is my block that I stitched on it, which I have obviously just restitched on my new piece. And I forgot that I had pulled this out because I made some modifications to the block. Like I flipped the tree to the other side. The bats are black, obviously, whereas on Village of Hawkhorn Hollow, the whole background is black. So I did make some modifications. So I had pulled this out while I was stitching this block, and then I totally forgot it. So I have this fabric that I thought would be good on the back of that. So I'm just gonna make that into a little bowl filler as well, like I did with the other ones. So I'm gonna get all of that finishing done. Kind of, I'll just do all of that together. And I have my Nevermore too that I think is also going to become a bowl filler. So I don't know what fabric I'm gonna use for the back of him yet though. I need to figure that out. So those are my finishes. And so we'll move right on to whips. So speaking of deciding, you know, a few days before that I want to finish something up for a gift, I decided, you know, I should really pull out Colonial Garden and try to get it done for mine and Eric's anniversary so that I could give it to him for our anniversary. I decided this like a week and a half before our anniversary. And I've been working on this piece for like 3 years. I'm not sure why I thought that in a week and a half I could finish it, but I did get some good progress in on it. I'll say that. So here is where I'm at, and let me just pull that a little bit so you can, I've got some hanging threads here. So I did actually make some good progress on this. Like I have almost finished this half. I have this bird to finish, and then I basically finished half of the design minus the border. So, and you can see that border has those little kind of pennies, looks like, or those little, what do you call those, tongues on a wool rug. So anyway, I'm really happy with how this looks. Again, you know, I've talked about this before. I really struggle with this piece because it's black and it is 40 count, and the black forest fabric is double dyed. So I think it, not just, you know, the holes are tight, they're like super tight. So yeah, this one's a bit of a struggle, but, and when I look at it super close up, like, you know, as magnified as I have to get it to stitch on it, I keep feeling like my thread gets fuzzy. I'm stitching with silk with the called for MPIs, but I feel like my thread gets kind of fuzzy, and then my stitches look messy and, you know, whatever. But when you look at it from back here, I think it looks really pretty, and you don't see all of that. So yeah, so I'm happy with how it's coming along, but needless to say, it may have to be for next year's anniversary. Or maybe I'll give it to him just randomly in the middle of the year when he's not expecting anything. Because that's how I roll. But I love the colors on this. I adore it on the black fabric. But wow. Okay, so I worked on that a little bit. Mostly, I have continued to work on Mystery 9. So in my last video, I think I mentioned, you know, hey, I'm gonna work on Mystery 9 a little bit, see how, you know, far I can get on it. And then something happened. So I saw in the Chatelain support group that they were doing a challenge to stitch on a chatelaine for 100 days in a row. Any chatelaine, it could be multiple chatelaines, whatever, but stitch on a chatelaine for 100 days in a row. And when I first saw that, I was kind of like, I'm not doing that. I will get so burnt out, I'm not going to do it. But then the next day, I saw Deborah, AZ Needleworker, she posted, oh, that she's going to do it. And so, I don't know, peer pressure, I just decided, okay, well, I'll do it too. So I'm a day behind everybody else. But I thought it was worthwhile to give it a shot. And even if I get to like day 40 and I get burnt out, who cares? That will have been 40 days that I worked on my chatelaine. So I'm determined to get this thing done this year, which I say every year, but I'm determined to get this thing done every year. And I think that in 100 days, I could easily, I'm looking at it because it's sitting right here, I could easily get it a long way, you know, towards being finished, if not actually finish it. So I, you know, thought, well, why not? What have I got to lose? So let me show you how it looks now. And I may, yeah, I'm gonna take it off this Q-snap because this is gonna be a little unwieldy otherwise. just because I don't have it attached at the top. So, and before I lose any needles, which seems to always happen when I come in here, I somehow get back to my stitching spot and have no needles. So, or I have one of the two, because I have like my stitching needle, and then I have my tapestry needle, and I have a beading needle on here too. So here is where I'm at. So massive progress. I completely finished. So you may recall that I finished this corner at the end of last year. That was like my big push at the end of the year. So when I picked this up again, I was starting over on this corner, and the swirls were already beaded, but otherwise everything else was kind of new. So I completely finished that corner, and super thrilled with that. So one of the things, and again, you don't know what this looks like unless you actually see it in person. That's all I'm gonna say. So on these espalier trees, it's got blue. They're almost kind of iridescent beads, but they just look black on there. Yeah, you can't even really tell. They are a deeper blue than the blue on these little flowers. And then each of the urns, you can see, have two little beads on the top. And then the espalier trees on this corner have these kind of garnet red, oh yeah, you can see those garnet red beads. And so every corner is different, which I didn't realize at first. And when I was working on the blue ones, I was like, I'm gonna run out of these beads. There's no way. And I kept seeing a corner of somebody else's Mystery 9 that had pink beads. And I'm like, did she just pick pink beads? I mean, these blue are pretty, but... And then I actually looked at the pattern. That's the problem with the pattern, is that so often all four corners are exactly the same. So you make the assumption they're all four exactly the same, and they're not. So let's see if I can get, oh yeah, so you can see that sort of, that they are kind of iridescent blue. So you get that kind of purpley green flash to them. Yeah. Okay, so I finished this corner. And then I came down and did that side pool and the steps. These two little urns still need their beads. These are all rice stitches in here. And then I have started down on this bottom corner. And I am beading the swirls. So I've got this one done. I'm working on this one. And this is where I started to really kind of bog down, is in this beading. I'm hoping that I can just push through and get it done, but it's a lot in one area, as you can see. So as of yesterday, I think yesterday was like day 21. And I'm basically over halfway done. So I've got the two corners to do. I've got the steps and the side pool to do here, and the steps and the pool here at the bottom to do, and then I have the center to do. And then of course all of the crystals will go in. But I'm basically over halfway done. So I'd really like to get this done in 100 days. I'd really like to get it done in under 100 days, but I'm shooting for done in that 100. So that's the plan. And the last few nights I've just been kind of unmotivated to work on it. I'm just sort of bogged down. I'm gonna try to do better tonight. So that's it for whips. And so the hashtag, if you want to see who else is participating, the hashtag is 100-day Chatelain challenge on Instagram. And then I'm just posting, you know, my progress photos in the Chatelain support group. So, I will also post a photo here of what it looked like when I started the 100-day challenge, so you can kind of see how far I've come. And I've also posted that. I did it on like day 7, so you could see in a week, and I did it around day 16, so you could see in about 2 weeks kind of where I was at. I finished that top corner fast. This bottom corner is gonna take a little longer, mostly because I have all that beading that I still have to do. So, since that is all basically that I have been working on, other than the couple of days I took, and I still worked on my Chatelain those days, but I took a couple of days and worked on Colonial Garden. So my mind has been sidetracked, and I've kitted some stuff up. Out of stash, but I have kitted some stuff up and it's like ready to go. I have as yet not succumbed to the lure of a new start, but it's a struggle. So let me show you what I kitted up. So the first thing I kitted up was, let me give you the backstory. I have this frame that I have had for literally forever, and I've never put anything in it. And it's just, I'm trying to get it where there's no reflection. You know, it's just a little, you know, whatever frame, but it's got all these pretty seashells on here. And I've always wanted to do something with it, but never had the right something to do with it. And then I was, you know, tootling around on Instagram or the internet or blogs or something, and I came across a piece and I thought, you know what, that would be perfect to put in here. I could just stitch part of it, put it in here, and so our master bath, I have some Mermaid pieces in there, not stitched pieces, although my Mermaids of the Deep Blue will eventually go in there if I ever finish those. But I have a couple of mermaid statues and some prints, that sort of thing. So it's kind of an, you know, an ocean kind of feel. We have photos from our cruise to the Bahamas are in there. I think we have a photo in there from Miami. So it's got that kind of theme in there. And so I decided I really wanted to stitch this piece and put it in this frame and put it up in the bathroom. The problem was that I didn't have this piece. And it's out of print. So a while back, I put the call out on Instagram. Does anybody have this piece that they would be willing to loan me so that I could stitch a portion of it. And a very sweet stitcher said, I'm almost done with mine. I will send you my pattern. So it's this. Plum Straight Samplers. It's called From the Deep. And let me see if I can get that close so you can see it. So I basically just want to stitch the mermaid, obviously, and the background. And I figured out that if I stitch her on 40 count, she will fit in that frame. So that's what I'm gonna do. Now, all of the, this business around it won't fit, but she will, her tail should fit, and I should be able to get some of that seaweed in there. So, love it. So I picked out, I dug through my stash and I picked out a piece of fabric that is 40 count lamb's wool, which is that, horrible kind of scratchy linen that I hate, that's kind of see-through, but it's gonna be completely full coverage. So what do I care? So there's lamb's wool, 40 count. I really just needed it to be 40 count. It didn't really matter what fabric it was. And I pulled some of the threads, but I think I'm missing the color for her tail, maybe? Yep. So here are some of the colors. Pink, green, a darker pink, this gray, this purple, and then it's like a deep burgundy for her tail. And then the DMC that it called for the kind of grayish blue background, I didn't have, strangely. So I just pulled the NPI. So I'll just use that for the back. Oh, and there's black. I keep my black and my white in a bag together. It's kind of my overflow black and white. So I have that all kitted up, ready to go. And I know what size that needs to be. So I made myself a little template. I don't know when I'm gonna start that. Like I said, I was just sort of kitting up because, sorry for the shaking. I'm just sort of kitting up because I'm just sort of kitting up. So that was the first thing I kitted up. The second thing I kitted up, I was going through looking for fabric for the Astara and Yule ornaments for these, and I came across this. You may recall that my friend Sylvia gifted me with some Gonder linen from a while back, and so she gave me a piece of natural that I stitched my Primitive Wizard of Oz on. She gave me a piece of kind of a cream color that I don't recall what I stitched on. She gave me a white that I actually coffee dyed that I'm stitching my 6 Wives of Henry VIII on. She gave me a red that I'm stitching my Dracula book cover on. And then she gave me this green. And I have always sort of thought, kind of like with the red, I kind of thought oh, well, I'll stitch some sort of Christmas something on it. And so it has been in my little pile of scrap fabric, which is usually where I go when I'm looking for ornaments. But then a light bulb came on. And I thought, you know, I have a piece that calls for linen that I believe is like kind of a blue spruce color. Maybe I should stitch that on here. What do you think? So this is a piece by Ellen Chester with my needle called A is for Apple. It's an original design. And so years ago, the Tudor Rose Sampler Guild that I'm a member of, we celebrated our 10-year anniversary, and we had a big, you know, afternoon tea, and the board reached out to several designers and asked if they would be willing to donate charts for kind of door prizes, things like that. We also had some gift cards and from some local shops, and then we had a few other, you know, like scissors and things like that. And I kind of made out like a bandit. So I won a door prize and got to go over to, you know, the table of charts and basically pick what I wanted. And this is what I picked because I was like, it's an Adam and Eve. I love it. I need to stitch this. So this has been in my stash since then. I also won a pair of Dovo scissors, if that tells you anything. Made out like a bandit. So this has been in my stash forever. But I think I know the perfect thing to stitch on this green linen. So obviously this was designed to be a box top, and for the lid, Adam and Eve are clothed. And then there is a needle book that goes inside of it, and if you open it up, it's got Adam and Eve with fig leaves. And it's also, it says A is for Apple, instead of like up here, it says A is for Apple underneath, and then has, you know, your initials here. This one I think says A is for Apple, and then on the other side it may have, you know, a place to put the year or something. And then there's this little A is for Apple scissor fob with the snake on it. So what I thought I would do is, instead of making a box, I thought that I would stitch it so that I could frame it with my other A&E samplers. And I really want to stitch this one where they just have their little fig leaves. But I am going to modify it a little bit to have the, you know, the place to put initials instead of the big A is for Apple. And this one has a dog and a cat on it. Let me see if I can take it out of there so that there's not as much reflection. This is how I keep my charts, is in notebooks. So it has a dog and a little cat on it, whereas the other one just has a little dog, because obviously where the cat is where you've got this wording. So I thought I might kind of combine, you know, take elements from the two, but I want this Adam and Eve. So I think that's what I'm going to do, and then I can just frame it. But I just love this. And as soon as I saw it, I knew that that was the chart that I wanted. And there were some good charts there. I think we had some Plum Street and I don't know what else. But so yeah, so I have the perfect fabric, I think, for it. And I have most of the threads that I need. I think the one that I do not have is that it called for Buckeye Scarlet, which is a Gentle Arts thread, which I don't have. But I do have Louisiana Hot Sauce, which is a bright red. My guess is that the Buckeye Scarlet is probably a slightly deeper red. So I'm going to try this out. I may end up deciding that it's too bright, but I thought I'd give it a shot. So, and a couple, so it called for some DMCs, and then it also called for some sampler threads like cinnamon, celadon. Oh, it called for DMC 3371, which I have in one of my pieces. So I just pulled espresso bean, which is a really dark brown, which I thought would be just fine. Pebble, Weeks Dye Works, and then beige. So, and these are all on my cool tag there, wooden tag. So I'm super excited about that. And about figuring out not only one, that yay, I finally have fabric to stitch this piece on that I've been wanting to stitch, but two, that now I know what to do with this green fabric. So, bonus. So I kitted that up. This is not boding well for me sticking on target and not starting things. So then this piece of fabric that Christine from Stitch All the Things gifted me, this has been haunting me because it's just been right there in the front of my whip basket looking at me. And this is Under the Sea Fabrics Love Child 32 count. This is another piece that I bought this a million years ago, literally. And it has sat in my stash since then because I just never had the perfect piece of fabric for it. I do now. This is Jinx by Raise the Roof Design. Teresa from Shakespeare's Peddler is half of, or was half of, Raise the Roof. And I have just always loved this piece. It's got the black cat, the 13, the umbrella in the house, the ladder, I mean, the whole 9 yards. And I'm not going to finish it into a little bag like this is, but I always just loved the look of it with the black and that yellow, and it's hard to see in this picture, but there is a lightning bolt here too. All of this on that pink, there's something about that, and I'm not a super pink person, but there's something about that that I just love. So, it seems like it was meant to be. Don't you think? I think so. So that yellow that it calls for is Week's Moon Glow. And it calls for white, but instead I'm going to use Parched Bones, which is actually one of the limited edition threads for Jenny Bean Halloween. So it seems only fitting that I would use it on Jinx by Raise the Roof. It calls for DMC Black, no, actually it calls for Black Crow, which I don't have. And strangely, two of these charts that I pulled both call for Black Crow, which I don't have. So instead, I'm going to use mascara. And then it called for 702, DMC 702. I was trying to see if it called for an overdye, but it doesn't, which is this green, which I think is just the cat's eyes. So very simple color scheme. I think it's going to be great on here. So I'm really excited about this. And I thought that this would be a perfect thing to start for this month for Dark 13 stitching because it's on Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th. So I'm going to start this on Friday, which I'm super excited about because literally this chart has been forever in my stash. And they always do these little things down at the bottom. And so this one says, toss a pinch of salt over your shoulder before stitching. Just fun. I just love this piece so much. So I'm going to start that on Friday. And hopefully, I mean, it should be a fairly quick and easy stitch. And hopefully that will take care of my itch to start something. And I get to use my fabric that Christine sent me. So, and then the last thing that I kitted up, I went digging for when I was cutting those ovals for the ornaments. I went digging for something that I could use to trace an oval shape, and this is what I pulled. So this box, I bought this box a million years ago. It's just one of those paper mache boxes that you get. This one came from Joann. And when I pulled this out the other day, I was like, you know what? I bought this with the, so what this holds is, it holds my sewing thread and some other crap that I threw in there on top. But it holds my sewing thread. And so when I bought this, from day one, I intended that I was going to stitch something on the top of this. I was going to paint and finish the box, stitch something on the top of this, and have it be a sweet little thread box. And the piece that I decided that I wanted to stitch on this, I do not have, I don't know where my chart is, so I only have this working copy. And I'm just going to, I'm gonna sort of show it to you. So this is Carriage House Designs, and she did an entire alphabet. And so there were two freebies that were part of it. N for needle, which I thought would be cute to make a little needle book or a holder for my needles. A for angel, and then the whole rest of the alphabet. And so T for thread, and it's got two spools of thread on there. It says thread. And so my intention has always been to stitch that piece for the top of this box. Now obviously this is rectangular and this is oval, but I thought I would just do some sort of something in the edges and make it work. And so when I pulled this out over the weekend, I was like, what the hell, Michelle? How long have you had this box? So I kitted that up too. And I decided to go with, I have a scrap piece of, this is also silk weaver, and this is 28 count sugar cookie. And it's just a nondescript, creamy, warm kind of cream, what you would expect sugar cookie to look like. And so I pulled the threads, except one. I forgot to pull one. But it's dried thyme, deep sea, maple syrup, and then it calls for bittersweet, which I don't have. So I just pulled the DMC equivalent, which is this orange. But I think that, and then the other color that I did not pull is mulberry because it's in His Eyes on the Sparrow, so I have to dig it out of there. But I think that'll be pretty on there. And then I will just, you know, finish it on the top here. I don't know what color I'm gonna paint my box. I may paint it like a dark brown. I don't know. I think I'll just stitch the piece and then decide what color I want to do it. I could do it like this deep blue sea even, or something like that. I don't know, we'll see. So, but I finally kitted the dang thing up, and none of these pieces are huge pieces, so I don't feel too terribly bad if I give in to the urge to start something, because they're small. They all came out of stash, and they are all pieces that I have wanted to stitch for a long time. So that's what I've done. So along those lines, I wanted to talk a little bit about Stitch Mania because it's coming up. And last year, you know, was really the first year that I participated in Stitch Mania in however many years. I don't know if I ever officially did Stitch Mania. I think I just only did that crazy January challenge. So last year was kind of my first run with Stitch Mania, and obviously I did it a little differently because my plan was to really just work through my Year of Whips pieces. And so I, you know, kind of scheduled them out with, you know, 2 days each. That's the way that Emily had done hers, Eclectic Possessions had done hers previously, and I thought, you know, I really liked that idea of doing 2 days on something rather than just 1 day, because that'll make me crazy. And 2 days on something was really nice because it was enough to be able to make some progress on something. But if it was something like, you know, that was just, I wasn't feeling it, 2 days wasn't so much that I was ready to throw in the towel. So, I did, though, go a little off the rails, and I did start a bunch of stuff, too, which seemed fun at the time, but now I'm like, why did I start all that crap? So, there are people walking by my house and they're looking in the window wondering who I'm talking to. Whatever, don't look in my window. So, I'm trying to decide what I want to do for this year. Because I am really, other than what I just showed you, really not wanting to start a bunch of stuff. I really want to get some things finished. So, and I've been inspired by Mischievous Stitches and her plan for, you know, her year of samplers, which I thought, you know, is fantastic. And I've been kind of binge watching her videos, which has been fun. So that kind of got me thinking. And, you know, there have been a couple other folks that I think are doing like a year of Blackbird design pieces. And so I kind of thought, you know, it might be interesting to do Stitch Mania a little different and do it kind of with a theme. So one of the ideas that I'm sort of tossing around is doing kind of, you know, a month of sampler stitching. And I don't necessarily want to start anything new, but I have plenty of samplers that I have as whips that I think would be, you know, kind of fun to pull out and work on. Even some of the ones that I started last Stitch Mania, like Frances Eden. She's barely gotten any love, so I'd love to get her out and work on her. I've been seeing Carissa has been working on her Snooty Parrot sampler, which I'd love to get mine back out and work on it. Both of those, strangely, are both A&E samplers, so maybe I need to do a month of A&E sampler stitching. But so yeah, I'm kind of thinking about maybe doing Stitch Mania, sampler stitching, working on some of my whips. Just, you know, and obviously May is going to be within my 100 days, so I would still be working on my Chatelain. So I don't want to get too out of control, because I still am going to have to put stitches in on my Chatelain every day. And if I want to make progress on my Chatelain and get it close to being finished, it's not going to be like one length of thread. It needs to be like a good amount of stitching. But I thought it might be fun to do something like a month of samplers. The other idea that I had was maybe I make it a month of finishes. And either I work on doing some things like doing some actual FFOing and finishing things, or maybe I work on pieces that are close to a finish and I just try to bust those out and get them done. So that's another option as well. So I would love some feedback from you guys if you think that I should do some like my Stitch Mania sampler stitching or Stitch Mania finishing. Let me know what you think, because I could kind of go either way. So, all right, I'll let you know what happens. Okay. The other thing that I'm thinking about doing, you know, it does bother me sometimes that I don't ever do haul, really, because there is no such thing in my life at this point. But I am in the process of trying to go through all of my charts and figure out what in the heck I have, because I've sold some stuff, I've gotten some stuff as gifts, my spreadsheet is out of date. I'm trying kind of a new method of organizing my charts, and so I thought that it might be kind of fun, instead of doing a haul segment, that I might do something that I would call From the Archives and show you some of my stash that I have kind of as I go through them. So I think I might start that next time and show you a few things that I pull out from the archives and see what you think. That might be fun. So, okay. All right, so a couple other things. So I wanted to do just kind of a quick life update, what's going on. I mentioned that I was trying to work on Colonial Garden for our anniversary. Our anniversary was actually yesterday, and it was our 12-year anniversary. Eric bought me 2 dozen roses, red and white, and they are absolutely gorgeous. And I posted a photo of those over on Instagram. And we went out to dinner to a fantastic local restaurant that all of their food and their produce and everything is locally sourced. They actually grow their own fresh herbs, and so the menu changes seasonally. Really fantastic. So that was a lot of fun over the weekend. So yeah. And then one of the other things that I have been doing is, as a way to try to kind of get myself organized and get on top of some things that I have just fallen behind on, I have decided to start bullet journaling again. I had tried it briefly last year, and it was going great. I enjoyed it, but then I just sort of, I guess, just fell off the wagon, and I kind of quit doing it. So I'm going to start that again. And I've been doing lots of kind of online looking at bullet journals and traveler's notebooks and inserts and all that kind of stuff. So if you have any suggestions or tips or places that you can refer me to go and look at some stuff or get some inspiration or ideas, I would really appreciate it. So I've been kind of binge watching Boho Berry and watching her videos about bullet journaling and planning and all that good stuff. So that's been kind of fun. And then the last thing that I wanted to share is that I'm so thankful to Rachel from the Cross Stitch Counselor for doing, she always does her counseling corner at the end of her Flosstube videos, and this past one that she did, I suggested to her that doing a segment on anxiety would be really helpful because I know that there are a lot of stitchers that deal with anxiety, and I can always use some extra help in that area as well. So I appreciate you, Rachel, for doing that segment on your last video. It was very helpful. And the other thing that I have started implementing is, and I did a post about not this past weekend, but the weekend before, on, Sundays are kind of hard for me because that's the day that I start kind of getting anxious about going back to work on Monday. And so in a way to counteract that, I have started doing what I'm calling Self-Care Sunday, where I am trying to do some things to keep myself, calm and relaxed and enjoy my Sunday fully, and not start letting Monday steal my Sunday away from me. So I posted up some things I did last week on Sunday, as well as I posted up yesterday. And even just something small like doing some planning for the week in my bullet journal, or diffusing something fantastic in my diffuser, listening to music, Emily just recently did her first Stitch With Me video, and I loved that. That was so fun to just sit and, you know, I love Caroline Off the Grid Needle Arts. I love her Stitch With Me videos. I look forward to those every Friday. And so for Emily to do one as well, I was like, yay. I get to, you know, sit and stitch and watch and listen, and that is very relaxing to me as well. So obviously stitching is part of my self-care Sunday, but if you want to join in and share, you know, how you are doing self-care Sunday, you know, please join in on Instagram where I just started using the hashtag self-care Sunday. So I'd love to see what other options there are for doing something nice for yourself and keeping that Sunday, you know, your own time where you are actually enjoying yourself and relaxing and having both days of a weekend. So, and then the last thing I wanted to talk about is, it's been a while since I talked about books, but this was just released at the end of March. This is the newest book in the Fever series by Karen Marie Moning. This is called High Voltage, obviously. And I've been looking forward to this for quite some time. So I'm not very far into it because I've not had that much time to read, but I'm thoroughly enjoying it. So if you haven't yet had a chance to read this, it just came out, go pick it up. This obviously came from the library. So I think that's it for me. I am going to go settle in and watch the last episode of X-Files that I have DVR'd, and then maybe watch some Flosstube videos and do some stitching on, let me back that up. I'm gonna do some beading on Mystery 9 and see if I can make some good progress. All right, so let me know what you think about Stitch Mania plans for me and what your thoughts are. Let me know what you think about me doing a From the Archive section, and enjoy your stitching, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys. Oh, and by the way, show notes, links, etc. can all be found on my blog, cozyegg.cozyeggdesigns.com, or you can just go to cozyeggdesigns.com. Simple. You can find me on all of the places as Cozy Egg: Pinterest, Twitter, Instagram, Ravelry, Flickr, all of the places as Cozy Egg. And yeah, so thanks, guys.